Hi everyone, so continuation tayo ng lesson, no? And anyway, so ito tayo sa divisibility and divisibility. Katulad sinabi ko nung una, divisibility and divisibility speaks about the object or infestation ng isang application. No? So yun ang uri ng divisibility at indivisibility. There are certain tests for distinction between divisibility and indivisibility, pero ang pinaka-importante doon ay yung intention of the parties. No? Pero kung minsan, okay, we have to give way to the reality na if an obligation is incapable of partial performance, indivisible talaga siya. Even if the parties think or has this intention that it be made divisible. Okay? Now, an obligation is presumed indivisible where the only one creditor and only one debtor. 1248, Article 1248. So, yun. Presumption lamang siya. It doesn't necessarily follow na indivisible nga talaga yung obligation. Okay? Now, kinds of division, meron tayong qualitative, quantitative, at saka ideal or intellectual division. Qualitative division is a division kung saan with regards to quality yung pinaka natawag controlling. Yeah? Quantitative is one based on quantity or number, and the ideal or intellectual division is one which exists only in the minds of the parties, and it does not allow sa isipan lang ng mga parties, even if the thing is or the object is indivisible. Kinds of indivisibility are legal indivisibility, divisibility na mismo sasabit ng batas or by their nature, and conventional indivisibility, which is yung napag-usapan ng parties, and natural, where the nature of the object does not admit of divisions. Okay? Now, ganun ang konsepto ng indivisibility at divisible obligations. Okay? Yeah. Bakit importante yun? Siyempre, if an obligation is divisible, okay, there's always a probability na you can always defer or delay the performance thereof. At least, hindi siya makakonvert into a cause of action for damages until and unless, okay, the parties agreed otherwise. Pero kasi yun nga yung concept ng divisibility. Okay? The obligation is not deemed breached unless it is breached in the whole. If it's only breached in the part, well, we have to understand what kind of part is it, no? Article 1224, yan, joint indivisible obligation. Okay. May pagkakahalin tulad po sa talakay natin doon sa former topic tungkol sa solidary obligations, no? Okay. Now, the purpose of the preceding articles, that's 1224, 1223, okay. The obligation of indemnities and those which are not susceptible shall be deemed to be indivisible. In the obligations of okay, usually, okay, subject to partial performance, it shall be considered to be divisible. Okay? As long as it can be divided to a number of days yung paggawa ng obligation, how it's supposed to be performed. However, even though the object for the service may be physically divisible, an obligation is indivisible provided by law intended by the parties. Okay. Definite things, the purpose to give definite things, and yung object is to give definite things. Indivisible daw siya. Okay? It is considered to be indivisible then pag it is an obligation which is not susceptible of partial performance because of its nature. Okay? So, yun ang mga provisions regarding divisible at indivisible obligations. Maiksi lang naman agad. Now, ang susunod naman ay itong penal clause. Thing that you have to understand regarding obligations with the penal clause is that yung penal clause is always an accessory obligation. The sole purpose of existence is to make sure and ensure that the obligation be performed, no? So, yun. Okay? Ito ang definition ng penal clause. You can take a picture of that. Ito ang purposes. Ensure performance, substitute the penalty for damages. Kaya ang purpose ng penal clause is that hindi na kinakailangan patunayan pa yung degree of damages. The penal clause is sufficient in itself, no? Nagiging parang accounting na lang siya. Accounting problem na lang. No? Now, kinds of penal clause. Meron tayong legal penal clause which is provided by law. Conventional penal clause, yun ang pag-usapan by the parties. Okay. At meron compensatory penal clause. At punitive demand, which is to penalize. But compensatory, that means to compensate, no, for damages. As to demandability or effect, meron tayong subsidiary or alternative penal clause. That means pwedeng hindi siya i-enforce. Only the penalty pala is the only one that's enforced, corrected. Tapos, both the principal obligation purpose can be enforced. Basically, ang pinaka kadalasang uri ng penal clause ay yung letter A, no? Kasi, if you're asking for the joint and cumulative penal clause, that means you are asking that the obligation be performed, okay, and the penal clause also be performed. Okay? Pero ang karamitan natin nakikitang penal clauses ay yung letter A, number 3, no? Subsidiary alternative penal clauses. Okay? Pwede pa rin makarecover daw ng damages kahit may penal clause, no? Ito yung mga requirements. Okay. Kung titingnan itong number 2 at 3, yun ay usually grounds also to recover moral damages. Hindi mo kinikilala yung right ng tao. Or exemplary damages, and you are also guilty of fraud in the fulfillment of the obligation. Okay. Yan. Now, ganito kasi ang lesson why the penalty can only be enforced when there's a breach is because doon lamang po pasok yung obligation sa penal clause, no? Pag wala yung breach, there is no purpose to enforce the penalty. Okay. Penalty is not a substitute for performance, but what? But again, it is reason to perform the obligation kasi yun yung purpose niya no? To ensure the performance of the obligation. Okay, always presume subsidiary siya, and alternative at hindi siya cumulative, no? Always, a penalty by virtue of the penal clause can always be equitably reduced, no? Judge, depends sa situation. Okay, if there is irregular performance and the same substantial, pwedeng walang ma-recover na penal clause damages. Irregular performance para okay. Why? Because again, we go back to the same principle that the penal clause is always a secondary obligation. Now we go to extinguishment of obligations. Yun yung susunod. Okay? Now, thank you for listening. Next lecture will be extinguishment of obligations. Gagawin ko yun tomorrow. Okay, by Thursday. And hopefully, gawin ko na rin yung iba pang mga lectures on all this, on sales at sa labor and negotiable instruments. Okay, thank you.